are we just throwing mud at the wall, or are we taking on new clients that don't fit our values, don't fit our business? And so it's making it harder for everybody else to even respond and deliver, because we're a cookie making machine and we're trying to create bread or something totally different.
Oh yeah, been there. Welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast, the podcast that will equip both the seasoned sales professional and the more reluctant seller with mindset shifts and strategies needed to succeed in a competitive marketplace. Well, welcome to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. This is a treat. This is my first panel interview. I'm so excited. I am delighted because what we're going to do is we're going to be talking about how your operations really impact your sales. And so what I'd like to do, I'm totally going to hand it over. I'm going to have my guests introduce themselves because I have some things that I really want to draw out of your bio, if you will, your introduction. So why don't we just start? I'm going to have you go first, and then Kendi, if you'll follow up, and then just tell us a little bit about yourself, your name, your company, but tell us something we're not going to find in your bio, and people probably won't easily find out on your website or anywhere that they're going to be checking you out. So,
trick questions. Well, Valerie Crafton, I've been in the construction industry for a little over 20 years, mostly in the high-tech sector, working in data centers, semiconductors, on the general contractor side and on the owner side, working for folks like Microsoft, Google, and Intel, really bringing that end-to-end experience from the entire build cycle. So I've worn a lot of hats, and to Tish's point, it is really interesting on how each part of your operations can impact your sales. So this is going to be an exciting conversation. Something about me that you won't find anywhere else. Well, up until recently, I've only just let folks know that I've launched a nonprofit, and I've written children's books around bringing awareness to the trades. I'm all about diving into a root cause, and I think the reason why we have a big gap is about the exposure to small children. And so although you can now find that on my website, I have not launched it. I have not advertised it. I'm only just now it takes a while to get approved for a nonprofit. I'm just now putting it out there and create STEM kits to go with every story so that the children really get something hands-on and they can imagine them being a hero in their neighborhood. And really not all heroes wear capes. Right. Some wear tool belts. And I want them to know that it's not a certain type of person that can do these types of jobs, but really bringing the awareness that this is for anyone. And so that's one special thing about me that I'm really passionate about.
Well, Valerie, first of all, you are such an unassuming rock star.
No.
I mean, and she's like, yeah, and cool. And I'm just like, hello. I'm like, yeah, I just do these little things. And then I created this nonprofit. It's such a big deal. And again, really, I was so in awe when you all were talking, and we'll talk a little bit about why I brought them here, but such a big deal. So congratulations, and thank you for being here. Kendi.
Yeah, hi. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Kendi Brown. I'm CEO and founder of VALC Consulting. We're an operations agency that helps leaders and CEOs take their business to the next level by diving into the trenches with them, and not just here's some advice or here's some coaching, but really hand-holding, doing the heavy lifting for them. I've been doing that for several years. I was a former tech executive in the startup space. So when you think about Silicon Valley companies, I lived that for most of my career. So very much every 6 months, you're basically in a new company, new goals, new operations, new people, and you still have to grow. When you think of 10X, we were 10Xing constantly. Wow. So I feel like I've lived dog years in that lifestyle where you just learn a lot, work with really smart, talented folks. And through that, when you're asking about what are you not going to find in the bio, is that I am a really fluid operations chameleon. I realized I can live at the center of so many different parts of a company or in the operations, whether it's, blending with sales and marketing or with, the engineers or the product managers, being able to live in that space.
Wow.
That has really been the hat that I love to wear most. So I guess from a, what do you need to know about me? I'm quite the operations chameleon.
I love that.
It
So
sure is.
I have to have you tell the whole world about your company name and where it comes from.
Yeah, it's a unique one.
Yeah.
So when I started out on my own, I'm an Arizona girl, born and raised, won't ever leave. And so I knew it has to be reflective of my love of Arizona. But then I also wanted to be able to honor my family and my parents. And so I was thinking about moments that I had with my family. And growing up, I would have moments after school with my mom, and we'd go to the Phoenix Zoo. And that's what we would do. We'd take a lunch, we'd go hang out. And it was the quaddy exhibit at the zoo was our favorite because you never got to see them.
Yeah.
And so, thinking through what reflects Arizona and the memory of my mom, that was where quaddy was born.
That is so cool. So I'll tell you why and what kind of prompted me to invite these amazing women to the podcast, but I have to tell you a funny story because we were at a conference just this past week, and I'm thinking, Kendi, maybe we've known each other for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
But we're always like walking into rooms, for networking or whatever. So I wear glasses, and most people don't know this, but once you get past like maybe that door, I can't see anything. I see figures, and maybe I'll be able to recognize a certain thing about a person, but generally I don't know who they are. So people who will wave at me from across the room, I'm like, hey, I don't know who you are, but hey, So I see this figure walking, and I literally say to myself, she looks like Kendi. And so from way down the hallway, I'm like, the closest she got, I was like, that's Kendi. I was like, I didn't know who she was for certain, but I knew that walk. So that speaks volumes as to how often we walk into the same rooms.
Yeah, it was amazing to see you. And yes, I have a bit of a distinctive stride.
That
I do own.
Yeah. And that beautiful red hair as well. Yeah, for sure. But I was at a NABO, National Association of Women Business Owners event, back in January, I guess it was, maybe.
It was either January or February.
It was early this year for sure.
Yeah.
I think it was January. But it was January, definitely. So we had this panel speaking, and I serve on the board, so I get to be in most of the rooms, but we were at a regular event, and there was this panel, and I just was hearing these amazing operations, strong women talking about various things about operations, but what I kept hearing in your conversations is how it impacts all of the various parts of business. And of course, being in sales, I was like, I really would love to have you all come and talk about how having your operations in order and, what parts of operations really do help drive sales. And so I'd like to hear from you all first and foremost, what's the first thing that came to mind? Of course, when I invited you to be on the podcast and really talk about this, with your experience, what's the first thing that came to mind for you, Val?
In regards to, I know that you wanted to focus on operations and excellence, and I had imagined that more people needed to hear what we had to say.
For sure.
I mean, when I met Kendi, and this is one of the reasons why we're business partners, is because I always think about root causes, and I always think about everything from end to end.
Right.
And because everything is connected, and the majority of the root cause of why you have problems within that streamline of end to end, from whether it's a product you're delivering, a service you're delivering, or a project or a program, whatever you want to call it, or whatever it is, they're all connected.
Yeah.
It's like a single octopus with lots of different arms, and they're all out of control, but you got to have something that kind of centers them. And I find that root cause is the streamline between that end to end. And so when I met Kendi, and she was this back of house operational, and I'm in the field thinking about how I can create lean processes, it was that connection and that bridge in between, which is why we became connected. And I said, I need someone I can partner with who can really help me take those end to end perspectives. So when I launched VALC, that's really what I was focusing on, is how can we improve overall processes? And I don't know if I answered the question, but that was kind of what I was thinking is this automatically made a great partnership.
Absolutely. What about you, Kendi?
Yeah, I love everything that you said. And this is why I love Val so much. Because
Yes.
she's so freaking smart. And like, she always makes me feel like, oh, I can learn so much. And she really pushes the envelope. And because she can see, end to end, field, internal, and it really is an ecosystem. And so when we're thinking about sales and then fulfillment, operations helps manage that tension between the two sides.
Yes.
And especially as we're talking with, entrepreneurs who are service-based, who may or may not have a team, it's always that tension of finding enough time to invest what they need to in sales, right? A follow-up and being able to get out in the world, right? With networking.
Yeah.
And then being able to make sure that they can fulfill their promise to their clients.
Yes.
And so operations is at that segue of always making sure there's enough time and priority to deliver on the sales promise.
Yes.
But then enable them to not miss out on any opportunities.
So true. So something very few people know, I've talked about it on the podcast a few times, but most people in my real world don't know about this, but I actually got into sales because I was in the staffing world. It was my first job after school. And I was very happy in my cubicle, very happy. I was, putting people to work and loving every bit of it. But there were people in the leadership within the organization who thought I would be good in sales. And I was literally like, absolutely not. I don't want my paycheck tied to, to commissions. I love what I'm doing. I love the consistency of it, so on and so forth. Well, eventually they created a position for me that they called a performance manager. And the performance manager was a liaison between operations and sales. And so I literally got to have my fit in both of those places and got to see that tension you're talking about. Because I saw how the salespeople would make promises, the operations people would go, absolutely not. Why did you say that? And vice versa. And there was often a little bit of, conflict between sales and operations. So I'd like to hear from you all. Number one, do you ever see that? And if so, I saw that look, Val. If you see that, what do you think the best, bridge is for operations and sales to be on the same page, to be able to support each other, help each other, lift each other up?
So I recently did a case study, and I love going in and doing these little forensic studies because a lot of times it helps not only understand your ROI of the situation, but it allows you to get the opportunity to get some buy-in and really understand all of the perspectives. And a lot of times folks bring you in for what they think the problem is.
Truth.
And we're like, that's great. That's what we're trying to solve. Is it or is it not the problem?
Yes.
And so this is what we're trying to prove. And I always take a more of a Six Sigma approach, very manufacturing of me. But that's what I look at. And I look at it and I say, okay, as soon as someone says, well, because of this person, and I'm like, okay. I try to make sure that we all remember that it's not the people, it's the process.
Yes.
And so as soon as I go through this whole forensic, suddenly everybody's using a very different language. Yeah. It's not that person that's holding me up or bottlenecking me. It's the fact that their process, their KPIs, all of those things are working against me. And so there's a gap there, and I discover all of those. And through the forensics, we now understand what the root cause of the problem is, and at the end of the day, the ROI of fixing it.
Yes.
Right? So we learn not only is this causing a pain in this piece of the operation, but if I can fix it here, it also fixes it here, here, and here. Now I've aligned my resources. Now I've leaned out a process where people were double handling information. I've automated something for you. I've streamlined something for you. You're no longer chasing people or having meetings about meetings. It's or arguments or being in some sort of retroactive, let's fix it, bringing the leadership in, constant firefighting.
Yeah.
And that's what I really see is those are some of the symptoms you see is you're in constant firefighting mode. And if you're in firefighting mode, you cannot innovate.
Very true. Very true.
I'll stop there because
you can go on. I can see that. Yes, that's good.
Yeah, and taking it on from there, there's the term of alignment.
Yeah.
Right? And to be able to reach alignment, we have to start from one, understanding all the moving pieces in the process, which you dove into, and then understanding the motivations of people. Yeah. Right? We all have different working styles. We all react to information in different ways. And someone who's very good at sales and someone who's very good at fulfillment and operations are two very different personalities.
Yes, so true.
And so it's how do you bridge that gap together so we're working like, very well-oiled gears, and it comes down to communication.
Truth.
And being able to have the right conversation, using the right language of, it's not finger pointing, it's let's just come to the table, problem solve, and then being able to say, okay, we understand what's happening. We're crushing our communication. We're getting to alignment, and then being able to bring those two people together and then celebrate the wins.
Yes.
I think, sales often is a shiny part of the company, right?
Yeah.
You're bringing in the revenue, you're making all these great goals, and then operations often gets left with some messiness, of fulfillment.
Yeah.
But bringing those two together to celebrate not only bringing in the business, but then completing the business will help bring those two sides together and say, we're all in it to win here.
Love it.
And what you're talking about is building bridges.
Yeah.
Right? We're building bridges, which I always say I no longer build construction projects, I build bridges.
Yes.
Between processes and people and technology. So you're talking about, in the finance and the sales, but then what's happening is everyone's making those decisions in silos. And
exactly.
So what we're connecting, Amy and I are talking about here at the end of the day is building the bridge. And then ultimately that bridge creates a picture, and that picture is visibility to leadership.
Yeah.
And the leadership now can make a business decision that's based on real data and the entire picture, and not based on a political sway or the loudest person in the room.
Yeah.
And so I hear that so much is, you have this sales team, you have that one person who's just like, we're going to lose this guy. We got to do it now.
Right.
And you're like, time out, right? Let's talk. Let's bring in all the right people. But if the process was in place, then we probably wouldn't be so reactive.
So true.
To our clients.
Yes.
Right? So,
so many times have I seen that. And I think the interesting thing is, and I think the benefit of me having been on both sides and really being in that center place was before I was in that role, I was sitting in operations going, why did they sell that? There's no way we can there's no way we can fulfill that. Or I got to work late now because we got to fulfill all these orders. So instead of from the inside being able to say, good job, guys, we'd go, oh, you know what did you tell them that for? And then the opposite side, when I went on to the sales world, coming back going, I did my job. See y'all later, fix it, handle it,
Have you ever gone to a networking event or a conference and found that although you made great connections and you walked away with a stack full of business cards, you still didn't have a real plan for how to get a good return on your investment of both time and money? Well, let me tell you, having a networking and sales planner is a way for you to be more intentional about the way that you network.
Hey, I'm Susan Gladstein. I'm a functional nutrition and metabolism specialist, and I got connected with Tish because she is a rock star at systems and sales, and so I downloaded the planner to help get my brain organized as I went through a rebrand and launched a new course, and it's really helped me sort of get things out of my head and onto paper so that I can actually do follow-ups and not just rely on my brain. So far it's rocking my world and making my business systems that were non-existent actually have some sort of structure. So I love it. It's amazing. And I'm so grateful that our paths have crossed.
I've been working with sales professionals for almost 15 years. And one of the things that I find is that when they don't have a plan, they do nothing. They sit at their desk and wonder what to do. Well, with this networking and sales planner, you have profit producing activities for every single day of the week. It tells you where to go, what to say, even gives you prompts as to how to interact with people that you don't know. If you're an introvert and you feel like this isn't for you, I have already thought of you because I understand exactly how introverts think. So this gives you the tools enabling you to be armed with words, with language, so that you can make your networking more profitable.
Hey everyone, Rachel Neighbors here from solo401k.com. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about how awesome this sales networking planner is that Tish put out. So as you can see, I have it on my Remarkable. That's my sort of e-ink planner. And this sales planner has been so helpful for me. So I'm an old school pay-per-click marketer. I do Google ads, Facebook ads, and I know how to turn advertising into profit. but I didn't know how to turn network sales into profit. And when I met Tish, this woman literally wrote the book on networking called, Networking is Not a One-Night Stand. And she's put that experience and that energy and those valuable tips into this networking sales planner. And I just think that it can be so powerful for you in your business. I know it's been really helpful for me and mine. One thing that Tish told me is, Rachel, when you meet someone, put them into your planner and then follow up with them like they're a lead that you've generated on Google Ads or that you followed up with or that you've generated on Facebook. And that has been so helpful and transformative in my business. So thank you, Tish, for this awesome planner.
Maybe you don't even like networking. You say things like, networking doesn't work. Well, let me tell you, when you have a plan in place, you have some intention, and you have the tools to be able to make it work, you will see a different result. My new networking and sales planner is a game changer. It's the difference between you going to an event, wandering around and walking away without any purpose and without any new money, and walking into an event with a plan, with a purpose, and being able to convert new clients into your business. No one wants to feel inauthentic and pushy or even salesy when following up. So frequently we just don't do it at all. Well, the profitable follow-up formula, which is in the back of your networking and sales planner, will give you the tools and the language and the frequency with which you should be following up so that it feels very authentic. It feels genuine and natural both to you and to the people that you're reaching out to. Go to tishtimes.com/planner to get your digital or physical version of your planner.
Hi, my name is Cheryl James from CL James Consulting, and I just want to tell you a little bit about how awesome this networking sales planner is. I started intentionally networking at the beginning of this year, and I have been using my planner on a regular basis, not only to get inspiration, but to track the people I want to meet and the people I have met, and to make sure that I follow up with them from week to week. So if you are looking to network intentionally and hold yourself accountable, this planner is a must-have.
And once you get your planner, you'll also receive a video series that's going to teach you how to maximize your networking and how to use this planner to get the best result and best return on your investment of both time and money. If you are ready to stop wasting time with networking and turn your networking into a sales machine, then go to tishtimes.com/planner and grab your networking and sales planner.
I'm wondering what types of data, because I love what you're saying, building that bridge, and I definitely understand operating in silos and not having strong communication. And I'm wondering, is there a specific piece or maybe multiple pieces of data that salespeople really need to understand in order, number one, to sell more effectively, but also for that bridge to actually start? So what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so I start to imagine we're trying to make a decision. So you're in sales or you're responding to an RFQ, right? And you're saying we want to go after this opportunity. What are those questions that you usually have some sort of go, no go process in place?
Yeah, or we should.
We should. Yeah. And here's what happens is you end up in this meeting with a bunch of people. Everybody, the leadership is seeing it for the first time. The loudest person in the room is pushing it through. Right. And everybody's in reactive firefighting mode. We talked about this. Right. Well, instead, we should be coming to the table with the questions already answered that the leadership wants to know, right? This is a presentation saying, I've already answered these questions. It fits, here's the risks associated with it, right? Here's how we're going to mitigate those risks. And all those questions that are important to the company. Does it fit within your portfolio? Yeah. Right? Are we just throwing mud at the wall, or are we taking on new clients that don't fit our values, don't fit our business? And so it's making it harder for everybody else to even respond and deliver because we're a cookie making machine. Yeah. And we're trying to create bread or something totally different.
Oh yeah. Been there.
It's all dough, but it's a totally different type of dough. Yeah. You're like, but they want it. Well, okay, and that's so innovative and forward thinking of you. So let's take it to, you know, our R&D team and talk about how we maybe pilot it, and does it fit within our portfolio and the goals that we have for our business. And so there has to be this standard list of risks that you're really focusing on. And for me, that's the data. So what happens once you start collecting that data? You start to get really quickly tied into what is and is not a fit. Sometimes it's just training for that sales team and learning really quickly that's not a fit. Before they even bring it to the table, maybe it's 95% a fit. Okay, let's bring it in and talk about if that 5% variance is something. So what are we asking? Do we have the resources for it? Right? Do we want to take on the risk associated with it? You know, in my world, it's, you know, does engineering have the capacity? Is there folks who can go and implement this new idea? Does it fit within the delivery? Logistics wise, is it going to work? Do we have to go to another country and now we're going to deal with these tariff problems? So there's a lot of questions we have to ask, and it's not as simple as, well, I'm selling, and then know what everybody keeps turning out. I'm like, no, you need to come to the table with a business plan, and we also need to support the sales team with, hey, here's what we're looking for, and this is what fits in this box. But if it's outside, let's talk about it within reason. And then who's a part of that conversation? Right. So automations help that conversation. So many times we'll bring all these folks in, we'll have a long meeting, everyone breaks away, and we forget about what happened.
Truth.
And then, or we've decided to take on this new thing, and we made some money off of it, but it was really painful. It was really painful. And we don't do anything about learning about the pain on that. And we go try to do it again because it made money. And then it was painful again. And then people are just now starting not to want to do it at all. And it's just the quality's going down. No one's really bought into it. And it's getting worse. Now we're losing money next thing you know. What happened? Well, we stopped learning from that moment. So I'll pause because I can go on forever.
So you're saying so many good things. And I'm literally like, reliving scenarios in my head, and I have a very specific question for you, Kendi. The first, you know, what comes to mind though, Val, when you're talking is the fact that as sales professionals, and I'm talking, you know, we know this, right? Frequently, especially when we're in organizations that are, you know, we're having weekly sales meetings and we have to present our numbers and we have to make a certain amount to meet our quotas, and our commissions are based on how much we sell. We're not coming to the table and saying, what do we need as an organization? What we're saying is, I got to go sell. Y'all better figure it out. I did my job. And it's a very selfish approach to sales. And I know that sounds harsh. People will probably think, but I've lived on that side where it's just like, I sold it. Figure out how to make it happen. And that's not a company-centric type of thought process. It's not a team-centric type of thought process. It's a very selfish, you know, and most times when we see high turnover in all departments, but specifically in sales, people feel like they're not supported. They feel like they're not, you know, being celebrated, but it's because they're almost selling the wrong solution. But they're in their mind, they're selling, so they should be, you know, everybody should be happy. So that's the first thing that comes to mind for me. And I wonder, as we're kind of going through this conversation, and definitely part 2 is on the way, because we don't have nearly enough time to have the conversation we need to have. But I would say that, you know, as owners, how do we kind of create an environment where sales and operations are at the same table with the same mission, understanding who plays what role and how we can manage it together. So my question for you, Kendi, is that plus for a lot of the more entrepreneurial, smaller organizations that don't have the benefit of having all this data and all the things that we would love to have, you know, have the processes in place, and they're selling things that they really can't deliver, or they don't even understand what needs to happen before they start to sell. What do you, as I know you walk into these companies all the time, how do you manage that, and what do you say to those owners?
I love that you put the lens on, you know, when you don't have a full team, when it's either you or your right-hand person and maybe a couple others. It really, those size of companies take on the persona of the founder and the CEO. And I would say that's probably even true for larger companies that take on the persona of the leadership team of what are their priorities, what do they care about. And so even for our smaller organizations, getting really clear on how you think about making decisions.
Yeah.
Because if you can nail that down, then you can disseminate it all through the organization and everyone is walking to the same beat. Yeah. One of the best ways to do that is really getting clear on your core values. And so I'm not talking about core values like respect and accountability. Yeah. Okay, great, you check the HR boxes. Yeah. But where this becomes really powerful for entrepreneurs is, what do you care about? Like when you have a tough decision to make, whether you're going to take the deal or say no to that very nice looking revenue check, right?
Yeah.
How are you going to make that decision? Yeah. And that falls into what do you care about from the data perspective? Right? We don't have time to track everything when we're small and just trying to figure it out. And we don't know what's important. But if we capture, based on how we've identified our core values, what we care about, these are the questions our sales team should be asking.
Wow, that's so good.
And then you have that documented, and then you can pass that on to operations and say, this is how we've made the decision. This is how we've come to this place. And this is how we follow through.
Wow.
So it keeps ourselves as CEOs, entrepreneurs, founders accountable to what is our box, what's our operating system, how do we make decisions, and then being able to coach, train, and bring our best internal heroes along with us and say, this is how we think through our core values. This is the data points that we actually really do care about. And this is what we're going to execute on. And here's our promise.
Gosh, so good. Go ahead. Yeah, I know you had something you want to add.
Well, I want to challenge.
Oh, please.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
I don't want to let anyone have the excuse that, I'm a small business, therefore I can't track data.
Right.
So I just want to address that piece. That is, yes, we're wearing a lot of hats. I'm a small business. You're a small business.
Yeah.
But I personally use a Smartsheet. That's just my personal tool.
Right.
And I use it to track data. I track every question my clients ask me. And there's so many AI tools out there as well to help you track this data. And what's really great, and here's the problem I see so many times, is you're a small business and you have a small group and everybody knows what to do and it works really well. Then you are successful and you grow really, really fast. And then you're calling myself and Kendi to come in and fix you. And I'm not wrong.
You are not.
And what happened is all of that tribal knowledge, when everybody knew what to do, suddenly you had all these new folks came in. And you didn't write down a process.
It's all right here.
It's all just in his head. And that person who started us and helped us establish has left the company. And they took all of that knowledge with them.
All of that.
So if you're documenting it, then you're not so tied to that person, right? You're not handcuffed to these people that, I've done these little workshops before where they say, hey, if this person left, give it a face, a vomit face. I don't know what I'm going to do. Or a smiley face. Thank God, he's, but it's more of a, I have that data. We're creating a continuous learning platform and we're learning about our clients. We're learning about our business. We're tracking our lessons learned. We're tracking our risk and how we mitigate them. We're creating consistency so that no matter who you're dealing with or who you put in front of that client, it's the same experience, right?
I love that. And that's why we need people like you all in the businesses that you're in, because I would dare say, although I agree with your challenge, most entrepreneurs are visionaries and they're flying by the seat of their pants and they're creating and nobody's documenting. Hello, been there. And had I met you all, when I first started in business, especially when I started my Done For You services, and it was like they were selling because I could sell, I could sell all day. And then the team was like, What are we supposed to do? And I'm like, oh my God, we got it. We were always putting processes in place retroactively.
Yep.
Always figuring out, we got to figure this out. And, it was, in all honesty, it was a huge nightmare, which it should have been, we got the right people doing the right things. We're growing like crazy. We were growing like crazy, but it was killing the business.
And so how do you collect that data so easily and consistently?
Yeah.
Well, something I had developed for a client was having an app on their phone that they can sit there and have drop-down selections. You can select so that it's all consistent. These are the questions we want answered. Everybody's answering in consistency. And here's what happens. You have a whole set of data that's automatically clean.
Wow.
You don't have to. Now you can kind of see, well, where are we selling the most?
So
what
true.
are our common requests?
Yeah.
What are the common outlier requests that we're not currently asking or offering? We should probably add that.
Got that.
And start adding that to the sales conversations.
Right.
There's so much greatness that comes out of data that allows you to be able to pivot and grow faster and be prepared for it rather than being so reactive in your growth.
So true. Oh gosh. My mind.
Part two.
We have to do, there's absolutely no doubt about it, because there are business owners right now. Number one, the first thing you need to do when we finish wrapping this up is you need to call Val, you need to call Kendi, you need to get, because in all honesty, again, I would love to say most of us are like running things like, like warm oil, but the likelihood is we're flying by the seat of our pants, doing the thing that we're most passionate about, but probably not putting these things in place, which means, again, our growth is being stunted, or we're growing in a way that's eventually not sustainable.
Right.
So, yeah.
One of the things that I noticed is when you do start tracking data, you start to understand which client you need to let go.
So true. Absolutely.
Like
yes.
this was my bread and butter. You're like, yes, but it's no longer aligned with your vision.
Oh my God, yeah. So
and
true.
so for me, I don't know about you, if that's what you see sometimes, even in your own business, maybe I know I've let go of clients that just no longer
They don't
fit
fit.
the vision.
They just
anymore.
don't.
They did in the beginning, but I've evolved.
I've had
into
clients
something
where the
bigger.
contract was over and I was like, let's have a party. It's over. We're not renewing it. We're not asking. We're just getting saying goodbye, because now you understand. So very true.
Yeah.
Same for you.
Wait, the sad story that I see often is that we have smart, talented, driven, grit-worthy entrepreneurs that start to grow, and then they reach this point where like, oh, I'm bringing in all this revenue, but yet I still don't have a dollar.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
They don't know.
How am I doing
for
double
sure.
and not
All of
also
that.
getting the financial
Lived it.
reward?
Absolutely.
100%. And the killer of your profits is not having the data to be able to make decisions, to have flags early on to say, hey, you're spending a lot in this area, or to be able to know who to hire and when to hire.
Right.
Right? A lot of us will be like, oh my gosh, I need a VA, or oh my gosh, I just need so-and-so and it'll fix all my problems.
And it never does.
It
never does. It creates more problems.
Resources.
I'm going to say
That's a whole
this.
nother subject.
Part two, we're going to talk about pricing. Because what I think happens in the sales world is, again, it's like I can sell it, but there's not enough data to be able to see what we should be really selling it at. I have more people come to me about, problems with their sales, but what they're really having is problems with their pricing. Yeah. They're not really understanding what's included in all of their expenses and how they really need to be creating those pricing in the first place. And then I also want to talk about both sizes of businesses, the more solo entrepreneur kind of business that may have a couple of contractors, and then the company that's kind of growing and they have similar but very different problems and that really stem from not having that data, not understanding the operation. So we'll definitely get part two on the calendar. So in the meantime, reach out, make sure you have a conversation. I definitely want to have another conversation with Kendi and Val, because I know that as business owners, we're so excited to change the world, not realizing that there's some things that need to happen to get that world changed. So thank you all so much for being here. Can you please share with our audience how they can reach each one of you all if they do have questions and want to have deeper
My website is
conversations?
VALC, VALC at valconsultants.com.
I'm Kendi Brown, and you can reach me at my website as well, quadiconsultingco.com. Or you can just shoot me an email, kendi@quadiconsultingco.com.
Perfect. And we'll have all of that in the show notes. Thank you.
Thank you, Tish.
Such
This was
a
so
great
fun.
conversation. Much more to come. We'll see you next week. Thanks for listening to the Sold Out Sales Podcast. I would be so appreciative if you would show me and my amazing guests some love by leaving a review on your favorite podcasting platform. Also, go over to tishtimes.com/resource page and make sure you pick up your sales and networking handbook, especially for introverts. Also, I'd love to continue this conversation, so make sure you connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. I'll see you back here next week.